people attend a wide range of courses. 60 to 61% of those are women. 15% are from ethnic minorities. 44% of university students come from FE. What we have seen in the last number of years that the further education and budget has been cut by 32% in real terms since 2000. Over 1 million adult education places have been cut since 2010, with a cut in February of last year of 24% cut in just 1 year. 400,000 adult student places were cut.
You can scrap the EMA, and of course that won't be great for the 16 to 18-year-olds involved, but that will just affect the 16 to 18-year-olds. Or you can scrap grants after 24, and that won't be good for the plus 24 people, but they'll get used to it because they'll take out all of these loans. And you can cut ESOL, but that will just affect certain groups of people, and it won't affect the sector as a whole. The reality of it is that all of these changes weaken and deracinate, to use a long word, deracinate the sector to this extent that the NAO has now reported on the situation in terms of FE colleges and that. So it's not, you can't take these things in isolation. They have to be seen across the board. And across the board, what they are doing is actually stripping out capacity in the FE sector. Lifelong learning in the UK has declined by 21%. Over an 8-year period, contrasted with a 15% rise across Europe. The 24% cut to sections of the ASB in 2015-16, together with the further 3.9% reduction in 2015, created a large gap in college budget. And we support the drive to apprenticeships. It's the Labour government that invented National Apprenticeship Week. It was the Labour government that brought in the National Apprenticeship Service. So let there be no doubt about that. But to treat apprentices as a one-trick pony, which is going to solve everything in the skills area and in the FE sector, and incidentally, and I've got time to talk about it tonight, to introduces the changes and the targets for both the number of apprenticeships and the apprenticeship levy in the sort of absurd period of time that they intend to go for it. They are riding for fall. And of course, in that process, they have a fatal blind spot because learner numbers as funding for non-apprenticeship skills has dropped. So have the number of learners. And the latest data from the Skills Funding Agency shows that 1.3 million learners have been lost from learning when apprenticeships are excluded. Now, of course, this can degenerate into an argument about statistics and whether, in fact, when you take the adult skills budget as it's now being constructed, in a net rise in adult skills funding or not by 2020. My view is that adult skills and adult skills funding, in the way that we all have understood it, will certainly be in a worse place in 2020 than it was in 2015. And it's already in a very vulnerable place because of what has happened between 2011 and 2015. On top of that, the decision of the government to replace maintenance grants with loans for some of the most disadvantaged groups of students, meaning that up to 500,000 of this country's most disadvantaged learners, if they want to go all the way through, would face debts of up to £53,000 should they choose to pursue higher education, has had a dramatic, it's not started yet, will have a dramatic impact on the viability and the numbers, sadly in my view, in FE colleges across the country.
I've cut down, there were lots more, but in one college, A-level class sizes that 3 years ago 32% of the classes were over 20, now 64% of the classes are over 20 for A2, huge marking loads. 44% of staff part-time, many staff will leave not replaced. In another £1.6 million cut from next year, £300,000 cut in disadvantaged funding, course closures. A third merging into a local FE college in a way that will be good for neither. A fourth, A-levels removed in food tech, IT, health and social care, class sizes increased. A fifth, all modern foreign languages cut in a sixth form A-level teaching environment. Dance, politics, some design gone. Further maths under threat. In a sixth, music, languages all gone. In a seventh, enrichment cut. tutors replaced by progress coaches. In the 8th, 11 posts redundant, 11 posts to be made redundant on top of 8 lost by natural wastage in the last year. Accountancy, dance, film and drama all going on top of music that's already gone. These are huge cuts with huge implications for the young people in those sixth form colleges, just like the huge implications for the young people and the older people in FE environments. And we must not let the Tories get away with saying that they are protecting funding in sixth form colleges or in FE colleges. It is a complete and utter lie. They cut 14% in sixth form colleges under the coalition, and now there's an 8% cut coming in schools and in sixth forms, and bigger cuts elsewhere that's happening. And George Osborne is telling lies about it. He says he's protecting funding, 14% cut under the coalition. He says he's protecting funding, but he's freezing funding when inflation is eating away at it. He says he's protecting it, but with one hand he's freezing it, and with the other hand he's making the colleges pay him more back. So he's making the colleges pay national insurance contribution hike, teacher pension contributions hike, which is a 5% tax on teacher employment. So he's freezing the money he's giving you per student, making you pay back 5% more. That isn't protecting education.
So we need to make the case for funding further education. We need more investment in staffing and educational provision. We need restoration of the education maintenance allowance. We need restoration of the ESOL cuts. So we need to actually argue for substantial investment in this sector and a proper understanding of what it contributes to the fabric of society.
Nick Bowles said in his grant letter to the SFA, devolution deals will provide specific localities with the power to make their own funding decisions, and so it may become less appropriate to let large national contracts spanning multiple geographical areas. Please take this into account, he says, as a funding body with any procurement exercise. The funding body responded in your allocations letter, talking to the colleges and general bodies. As we move to local commissioning and devolution, commissioners will expect local resources to be deployed to support the local area. Now, in FE Week next week, we will show that the analysis that we've done, there are, if you just even look at the top 10 in terms of the colleges alone, out of area provision is more than half of that higher education budget.
Some figures I think are really telling. There's a 29% mismatch between the skills of workers in Britain and the jobs that they're in. That makes us the 5th worst of 24 countries. We actually do have some real long-term problems in terms of how we've prepared and trained our workforce. The Social Mobility and Child Poverty Commission produced some really interesting figures on apprenticeships. 68% of people doing A-level age apprenticeships, when they're at the age of A-levels, are doing GCSE level apprenticeships. 98% of them, of a degree age, are doing A-level apprenticeships or lower. And what's happening? 31% of apprenticeships are never completed. Of course, there's a few people in further education who really haven't got much to worry about. Some college heads are on more than £200,000 a year. They're actually paid more than the Prime Minister.
When it comes to apprenticeships, they're up to their usual games. Who do they give these apprenticeships over? Well, first of all, to private providers, an organisation called Paragon. And they're not by virtue or anything like this. Paragon, by the way, once owned by Lord Nash, who doesn't own it anymore, who's a Tory minister. And one they find, Ofsted went to see it, gave it one of the lowest reports, and it says Ofsted concluded there's £17,000 by public money over 4,000 apprenticeships. Ofsted concluded its report by saying that too few learners have completed the qualifications because many learners have left their course and very few have had finished and found jobs. So, it's a real problem. So I think we've got a real task on our hands. But I do believe there's a real opportunity. The campaigns we've shown so far, the government are weak and divided on all sorts of fronts. I thank Kevin the NUT for the fantastic campaign they've had in pushing back Ofsted. It's been a marvellous campaign. If they can do it, we can. Yes, we want £1 billion, as our charter said, to overcome the 32% cuts, but we also need to make sure, get rid of the competition, get rid of the market, and really have a real collaborationist approach and planning to further and education.